Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something quite intense. We're looking closely at some lyrical excerpts from Laina J's song Heartburn. Found these via the YouTube transcript.
Yeah.
And yeah, our goal here isn't just to read the lyrics. We want to unpack them, really do a close reading. There's this incredibly raw story of, well, loss, resilience, and ultimately this powerful transformation woven in there.
Absolutely. And what jumps out immediately, I think, is how she rejects that typical idea of healing. The idea that grief eventually fades, leaves a neat scar. Laina J just says no. She insists the pain is still there, it's active, a fire in my chest, her heart still burns. It's purposeful.
A purposeful fire.
Exactly. So this deep dive is really about how she takes this devastating personal loss and turns it into, well, creative fuel and this very public statement.
Okay, so let's start there, at the catalyst, the core tragedy that really grounds the whole song.
Right. It's laid out with just devastating clarity. Lost my firstborn. No ambiguity there.
And the language. My baby went cold. It's so visceral, clinical almost, but incredibly personal at the same time.
Yeah.
Hits you immediately.
It does. It grounds you straight away in the event's reality.
And the lyrics then map out that psychological shock sequence, don't they? First, reality just breaks. She says, it's like the sky stood still.
That image, the sky standing still, it's such a perfect description of dissociation, isn't it? Time stops. The universe is just paused. And then right after that comes the numbing, that self-protection mechanism. When they told me he was gone, I forgot how to feel. The mind just can't process it all at once.
But that numbness, it never lasts, does it? The lyrics show feeling returning, but it's explosive.
Yeah.
Primal. You go from forgetting how to feel to screaming at the stars asking God why.
Yes, that raw human response to something incomprehensible. It's the world crashing back in, but in chaos. And she really works to make you understand the depth of this specific loss. It's not just any suffering. She makes sure you know. My boy, my first heartbeat, the first cry.
Underscoring the uniqueness.
Exactly, establishing the immense stakes, which, sets up the intensity of the fight that follows.
Okay, so stage one. Shock. Dissociation.
Yeah.
That primal scream. Then, once the initial agony maybe ebbs just a little, the focus shifts. It moves from the internal pain outwards to confrontation. And the next phase isn't healing, it's defiance. She talks about what others expected, that drumbeat of doubt. They said I wouldn't make it, they said I break, they said I fold.
And that really shows how vulnerable grief can make you, right? People are watching, waiting to see if you'll just collapse. But for her, that external pressure seems to become the very thing she needs to transform. She just refuses that narrative. Says point blank, I ain't drowning my tears. It's very active resilience.
Yeah, it really feels like the moment she decides to use the pain itself. That line, I stitch up my soul and I faced all my fears. Stitch up? It implies repair, but the damage is still visible, not erased.
That's such a key distinction. It's not magic healing. It's conscious self-repair, almost like emotional surgery. And doing that work, that's what lets her turn their doubts into her power. Every doubt they threw at me, I flipped the fuel. It's all about agency.
But, isn't there a danger there? Constantly using profound pain as fuel. Doesn't that just burn you out? Does the transcript touch on the exhaustion of that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the realness comes through, I think. She admits the cost. Walking through the fire and the pain made me cry. She doesn't pretend it was easy or tear-free. It was brutal. But surviving that fire leads to this redefined identity, one based in truth, not denial.
Right.
Look how she puts it together. I ain't bitter. I'm chosen, broken, but I'm real. Chosen kind of elevates it beyond just random tragedy, maybe hints at a purpose. And pairing broken with real, it suggests her authenticity comes from the damage, not in spite of it. This is really getting into what we call post-traumatic growth. The struggle actually creates new strength, new self-understanding.
So the struggle wasn't a failure to heal, but maybe a success in growing differently. Okay, so let's link this new identity back to that core metaphor, the heartburn. What does this all mean for her path forward? This memory is now a living energy.
Right. This is where the grief finds its permanent role. The pain literally becomes the source material for her art. She says it's a necessity. This hurt cut deep, now I bleed in my word.
Bleeding in her word.
Yeah. Vulnerability isn't weakness anymore. It's the ink.
And the transcript shows the child isn't just the reason for the song, he's almost in it. Every lyric that I write got his soul in the frame, like a collaboration with memory.
It keeps the act of creating tied constantly to remembrance. But it doesn't stay purely personal. That transformation takes on a public dimension. She connects her specific loss to broader advocacy. I speak for the one who the world tried to kill. The personal lament becomes a public declaration, a voice for others in similar fights.
So if the wound doesn't close, what does it become? She gives us the answer, circling back. He left me this burn in submission, not a scar. Pause on that phrase. Burn in submission. What's the difference compared to a scar?
Ah, this is really the core insight, I think. A scar suggests healing, closure. The event is sealed off in the past. But a burn, especially one in submission, that suggests fire that's accepted, contained, purposeful.
Submission not as surrender to pain, but acceptance.
Exactly. Profound acceptance that this event is now a permanent, defining part of her identity that she chooses to carry. The fire's still lit, but she's managing it, using its light and heat. It's the difference between trying to forget the scar and choosing to remember and use the memory, the burn. She carries his name like a badge from the stars. It's not damage to hide, it's an honor.
Wow. Okay, building on that identity forged in fire.
Mhm.
Let's look at the roles she claims. I'm a mother, I'm a fighter, I'm a flame in the storm. That's the self she's built from the ashes.
It's the complete fusion, isn't it? Personal roles, resilience. And she frames the experience not just as something she survived, but something that actually gave her strength. This idea of an exchange of power. My baby gave me his wings when my heart was really torn.
The loss itself provided the means to fly. That's profound.
It really is agency found right in the heartbreak. And she commits to living through him, right? I ain't losing, I'm living through him. It's like his life force is redirected into her.
That's a powerful commitment.
And it seems guided by this incredibly tender, almost integrated memory. She hears this internal voice counseling her. She says she can hear it in my head, telling her, Mommy, take your time, don't you rush. Yeah, it's bad time, yeah.
That advice for patience, it's such a contrast to the initial fighting stance. Suggests maybe the inner chaos is subtle enough for some self-compassion, guided by the memory itself, like a maturation of the grief.
It moves past just defiance into integration, I think. The fighter's spirit meets the mother's tenderness, and then very appropriately, the source material ends with that clear, explicit call-out, connecting her deeply personal journey to a much wider issue. Mental health matters.
Yeah. Puts the whole raw experience into that context of public awareness, collective responsibility.
So we've traced quite the journey here, from the devastation of losing her firstborn through turning that pain into expression, bleed in my word, right up to this lasting commitment, carrying this flame for herself and for others.
Yeah, the power of this work is really in how specific and unflinching it is. By focusing so tightly on her child, her pain, she somehow makes this universal statement about facing the impossible. She's not just surviving for herself, she's creating a legacy, being a voice for others who feel silenced by their own overwhelming grief.
It's incredibly moving. It is, but let's leave you, a listener, with the final thought, something to maybe carry with you from this deep dive. That line, he left me this burn in submission, not a scar. How does that idea acknowledging profound pain as a necessary, enduring burn, a controlled fire you accept rather than try to erase, how does that fundamentally change how we think about recovery? If you stop striving for the smooth, healed-over surface of a scar and instead accept the lasting heat, the light of the burn, what does that mean for how you define healing, how you define growth? Something to think about.